Hola clase, this is Señora Plesse. We are finishing chapter 4B, Celebrando los Días Festivos, celebrating the holidays. We're doing part 2, grammar and review, and this is week 4, February 8th to February 12th. Please watch the video the whole way through. It is very long, a little complicated, very important. If you need to meet with me with Zoom, please do so, and make sure you copy everything down. You will need all of this information for your test and writing test this Friday. So please stay with me the whole way through. I'll be giving answers away to activities as well. All right, so first things first, before we begin, we always have to go over culture. So I'm going to go through and translate these for you real quick. There's quite a lot of holidays you're going to be tested on the test. So Mexico, El Día de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. In Mexico and in other Spanish-speaking countries, they celebrate Day of the Dead the 2nd of November, so right after Halloween. They prepare bread of the dead, a bread in the form of dolls and sweets in the form of skeletons and skulls. The people make altars in their houses to honor their dead relatives. The altars have photos of the relatives, flowers, fruits, bread, and the favorite fruit of the dead. Some families have a picnic in the cemetery where their dead relatives are. And these customs permit families to remember their relatives that are no longer alive. So this is Celebrando el Día de los Muertos, celebrating Day of the Dead. It's actually a very happy experience because they truly believe that their loved ones come back and visit them and spend time with them. If you've ever seen the movie Coco or the Book of Life, it explains more about Day of the Dead. Spanish-speaking world, El Carnaval is one of the most happy and animated celebrations of Latin America. In general, they celebrate it for 3 days. There's always parades of floats, groups of people in masks, dancers, and musicians. In the parades in the Dominican Republic, the people dress up with masks that represent different people or personages, real or imaginary. In Uruguay, the parades are with music, above all the drums, and they're called candombe. The people follow the musicians, everyone dances, and some wear costumes. In Ecuador and Venezuela, there are parades. The tradition is to throw water at the pedestrians that pass on the street or between neighbors and members of the family. Las Fallas, which is also a type of celebration in Spain, has origin of the celebration of San Jose, the saint of carpenters, and the Valencians, and they conserve this tradition that's very interesting. In old or ancient times, carpenters celebrated the day of San Jose and the arrival of the spring, burning wood that they no longer needed. Today, during some 6 months, various organizations in Valencia construct 350 ninots, these things. They're big statues of wood, paper mache, and cardboard. These statues represent events during the year of famous people, generally in a comical form. Each year they pick a ninot by popular vote and put him in the Museum of Ninots. La Crema, which is the 19th of March, is the last night of the celebration when they put fireworks inside of the ninots. At midnight, they burn all of them. And the 6th of January, some of you celebrate this holiday. It's El Día de los Reyes Magos, or the Three Kings Day. One of the most anticipated and happy days for children in the Spanish-speaking world is the 6th of January, or El Día de los Reyes Magos, Three Kings Day. According to the tradition, the three kings, Melchor, Gaspar, and Baltasar, come riding on their camels during the night, and they bring gifts to all of the children. The night of the 5th, the families go to the center of the city to see a parade of floats with lights and flowers, and of course the three kings. After, the children get to gather straw or grass for the camels, and they put it in a box next to their shoes, usually under the bed. The morning of the 6th, the children wake up to see that there were gifts given by the three kings. So the three kings are kind of like the Santa Claus of the Spanish-speaking world, but it stays more close to the biblical story of the three kings, where it's the three kings that bring the gifts, not a big guy called Santa Claus. And before the 6th, kids write letters to the three kings asking for their gifts. Sometimes they visit the three kings in the department stores in the big cities, Before, it was custom to put cards next to your shoes. However, they started sending letters, and nowadays they send emails, right? It's like emailing Santa. All right, and the last culture, el roscón de reyes, which is this bread here. It's the round bread of the kings. It is Three Kings Day, the 6th of January, and while the kids play with their gifts, the grown folk prepare a snack of the kings for their friends and family. This snack includes a special pastry called el roscón or la rosca de reyes, which is the round bread of the kings. When it is the time to eat the roscón, everyone gets together at the table and one person starts to cut it. Each person cuts a slice of the roscón. Everyone eats a portion when someone screams, "Lo tengo, I've got it." ¿Qué es lo que tiene? What do they have? Well, inside of the roscón, there is a little plastic doll. According to the tradition, the person who finds the doll should pay for the dinner or another roscón. It's usually a little baby Jesus inside of the bread, and whoever has it has to throw the next party. So according to the tradition, the person that finds the little doll or the king or the queen is the king or queen of the party. The roscón, or this bread, is sweet. It's similar to sweet bread or a cake that is made, and you only have it one time a year. It's made with flour, eggs, sugar, butter, and candied fruit. As all traditional food, the recipe can vary according to the family or to the region. In certain countries, the roscón is accompanied with a mug of hot chocolate. Whew, that was a lot of culture. All right, grammar and review. In this video, you'll learn about 2 grammar topics, preterite and imperfect, describing a situation in the past, and reciprocal actions, people doing things to each other. So we're going to do with number 1, preterite and imperfect, describing a situation. In this section, you'll be able to talk and write about your childhood home and experiences, listen to and write about childhood memories, and exchange information about first experiences and favorite relatives. So you'll be able to talk about your past. All right, this is a lot of writing. A lot of this you've already written before, but you're going to have to write it again. You have to take pictures of these notes and upload it, and I need to see all of these notes there. So even if you wrote it, you have to write it again. All right, so review of the preterite. This was in first semester, the completed past. So you use the preterite tense to describe completed actions or events, things that happened in the past, one and done, right? Mis abuelos se casaron hace 50 años. My grandparents got married 50 years ago, one and done. Celebramos su aniversario el mes pasado. We celebrated their anniversary last month, one and done, all right? Here are the endings of completed AR verbs, right? Preterite AR verbs. Aste o amos Aaron is the song that helps students remember, right? This is the completed past tense of AR verbs. And these endings are for the completed past tense or preterite of verbs that end in ER and verbs that end in IR. So another song to help kids remember, I go, iste yo imos hicieron, like the Bob Marley song. Do, 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 don't worry. Be happy. All right. So anyway, iste yo imos hicieron. Right? So you need to know these are of regular AR verbs and regular ER/IR verbs. This is the preterite or past tense ending. If you haven't paused the video to write this down, please do so at this time, and then we'll move on to the next part. All right, and we're moving on. All right, review of preterite car, gar, zar verbs. Verbs that end in car, gar, and zar have spelling changes only in the yo form of the preterite. So all you have to do is just write what's underlined here and the yo form, so you don't have to write all the rest. But I do want you to write these 2 sentences at the bottom. So you're going to write car, gar, zar, changes in the yo forms of the preterite. C changes to QU, G changes to GU, and Z changes to C. Sacar, took out. Yo saqué, I took out. Llegar, arrived. Yo llegué, I arrived. Comenzar, started or began. Yo comencé, I started or I began. So I can say, comencé mi viaje temprano. I started my trip early. Llegué al aeropuerto. I arrived to the airport. y saqué dinero, and I took out money or got money. So only car, gar, zar verbs have spelling changes in the yo form. But notice it's still aste, o, amos, aron. Next, review all irregular preterite verbs. Last semester, we learned all of these verbs. You need to have them in front of you again, especially for the test. So please rewrite them over again. Pause the video, write them, and then we'll go over them. All right. Ir or ser in the completed past is went, was, or were. Fui, fuiste, fue. Fuimos, fuisteis, fueron. I call it the FU verbs. All right. Hacer, in the past, someone did or made something. Hice, hiciste, hizo. Look at the Z there. Hicimos, hicisteis, hicieron. Estar, to be temporary, in the past was or were. Estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvisteis, estuvieron. Tener in the past means someone had something. Tuve, tuviste, tuvo, tuvimos, tuvisteis, tuvieron. Poder, someone could or couldn't do something. Pude, pudiste, pudo, pudimos, pudisteis, pudieron. Ver, in the past, someone watched or saw something, right? One or done. Vi, viste, vio, vimos, visteis, vieron. Notice there's no accent, so it's still the same. I, iste, yo, imos, istes, hieron, but there's no accent. All right. We just did this last chapter, review of the imperfect or incomplete past. You still need to write this down. So pause the video because there's something that happens here that did not happen before. So pause, write this whole thing down, and then we'll go through it. All right, review of the imperfect or incomplete past. So not the completed past anymore. This is the ongoing past in the background. So use the imperfect to describe people, places, and situations like La casa donde vivía estaba al lado de un lago. The house that we used to live in was next to a lake. Use the imperfect to describe an action or situation with no specific beginning or end. Había mucha gente en la fiesta de sorpresa. There were a lot of people at the surprise party. Again, but there's no end in that sentence. There's no end to me saying, okay, there used to be, but there's no end in sight. The imperfect tense is used to tell what someone was doing, so something happening in the background when something happened, like an interruption. Like I was walking when I tripped and fell. So, todos mis parientes bailaban. All of my relatives were dancing, so this is happening in the background. Cuando llegamos, when we arrived. Our arrival interrupted them dancing. All right? Notice, imperfect, we were dancing, right? Used to, would, was, or were. Cuando llegamos, when we arrived. Boom, interruption. Same thing here. Los amigos hablaban. The friends were talking. When Marta se cayó, when Marta fell, all right, en la piscina, in the pool. So again, ongoing, I'm painting a picture in the background when, boom, she interrupted. She fell, one and done. So again, these symbols used to, would, was, or were happening in the background. These are the imperfect AR verb endings. We have aba, abas, aba, abamos, abais, aban. And the imperfect endings of ER and IR verbs. Ia, ias, ia, iamos, iais, ian. Pause this, write this down, and then we'll go through it. These are the irregular imperfect verbs that we learned also last chapter. We would go or used to go. Iba, ibas, iba, ibamos, ibais, iban. Ser, used to be, was, or were. Era, eras, era, éramos, erais, eran. Ver, used to watch, used to see. Veía, veías, veía, veíamos, veíais, veían. And you know that I means there is and there are. In the imperfect or incomplete past, había means there was or there were. Again, we're telling a story, telling about what there was in the background, right, before the interruption happened. I and había are forms of haber. Preterite trigger words, completed past trigger words, right? The one and done. Last night, yesterday, last week, last weekend, last summer, last year. It happened in the past, one and done. Anoche, ayer, la semana pasada, el fin de semana pasado, el verano pasado, el año pasado. If you haven't paused to write this yet, please pause and write them now. All right, imperfect trigger words. We're saying something used to happen, something was happening in the background, there was something going on that used to happen, that was happening before the interruption. So we have always, never, once in a while, generally, in general, on the weekends, all the time. So we have cada, siempre, nunca, los fines de semana, todos, de vez en cuando, generalmente, por lo general, and con frecuencia. Why do you need to know these trigger words? It's because you're going to see sentences that have either these words in them or these words in them, and it's going to let you know which one do I need. Do I need the preterite, the completed past, or do I need the imperfect, the incomplete past? So reading sentences with these words are going to tell you which words, which conjugations you need to use. That is what your test is going to look like. So you absolutely need to write down these trigger words if you haven't yet. All right, this is one of your activities that you have to do. I actually go through all of the answers with you, so please pay attention. So it says here, Patricia, a North American student that's spending a year in Spain, writes to her parents about a fantastic experience that she had. Complete the description with the appropriate forms of the preterite, the completed past, or the imperfect, the incomplete past. And again, you're going to be using those trigger words to find out which one you need. So, dear parents, I just finished spending an incredible few days. Acabo de pasar unos días increíbles. Mi familia española, my Spanish family, decided to go to Sevilla to celebrate the semana pasada. Decided would be decidió. You treat the family like he or she, and it's the hiciste, yo, himos, hicieron, decidió. All right? Nosotros blank el martes, we arrived, all right? Nosotros, that's the haste o almorzaron. Nosotros llegamos. We arrived Tuesday por la noche at night. And the streets were already full of people. Were already full, right? Las calles ya estaban. The streets, they were full. Again, we're now describing something in the background. They were already full of people. This was already going on. Había un desfile en la Semana Santa, se llama procesión. There was a parade that in the Semana Santa, they call it procession. In the procession, there were floats, very big floats with flowers. So, procession, we saw, right? Very big floats, vimos. Pasos muy grandes con flores y estatuas enormes, que se llama imágenes de la iglesia, that are called images of the church. The images, los imágenes, were antique. Eran antiguas y muy impresionantes. So in the procession, we saw, that you didn't keep seeing, we saw this, and they were ancient and very impressive. Again, había bandas, there were bands, y otras personas que tocaban música durante las procesiones, and other people that played music during the processions. Luego ocurrió algo fantástico. Something amazing happened. One and done. Una mujer went out on the balcony. Una mujer salió a un balcón, and she began to sing a saeta. Y empezó a cantar una saeta. Una saeta es una canción de estilo flamenco que canta aquí en Sevilla. A saeta is a type of flamenco-style song that they sing here in Sevilla. Todas las personas en la calle escucharon. All of the people in the street listened con atención, with attention, mientras ella cantaba, while she was singing. Por fin, finally, el paso, which is the floats, arrived at the entrance of the cathedral. They arrived, one and done. It is llegó a la entrada de catedral, como era costumbre, how is customary during Holy Week. Qué experiencia maravillosa. What a marvelous experience. All right. So again, you're saying, was it already happening or did it happen? One and done. All right. So now that you know, the blue is the incomplete past, what was happening in the background, and the red is the preterite or the interruption that happened.
¿Quién era tu pariente favorito?
Mi pariente favorito era mi abuelo.
Who was your favorite relative? My favorite relative was my grandfather. We're talking about in the past, right? Ongoing, and there's really no end in this sentence. It doesn't say that her grandfather is no longer her favorite. It's just saying her grandfather was her favorite. And the next one.
¿Cuántos años tenías cuando recibiste tu propia bicicleta?
Yo tenía 6 años cuando recibí mi propia bicicleta.
How old were you, all right, like in the background, how old were you when you received your own bicycle? This happened one time, right? How old were you when you received your first bicycle? Yo tenía 6 años, I was 6 years old, cuando recibí mi propia bicicleta, when I received my own bicycle, all right? So these don't keep happening. They happened one and done. These were happening in the background. He was 6 years old. All right, next, you see more of the incomplete past, how things was, were, or used to be.
¿Qué día festivo era tu favorito cuando eras niño?
Me encantaba Halloween.
So what holiday was your favorite when you were a kid? I used to love Halloween, right? I would love Halloween. And this one. A Carmen le encantaba Halloween cuando era niña. Carmen used to love Halloween when she was a kid. Siempre se vestía de princesa. Siempre, again, always, ongoing, repeated, habitual past. She always would dress as a princess. Todos decían que ella era muy bonita. Everyone would say that she was very pretty. Again, there's no end there, though. People used to say all the time that she used to be very pretty. Iba a las casas de sus parientes. She would go to the house of her relatives. Y ellos le daban muchos dulces. And they would give her many sweets. So she would go, she used to go. They would give her, they used to give her. Después se comía todos los dulces. After, she would eat all of the sweets. All right, reciprocal actions. In this section, you'll be able to talk and write about how people behaved at celebrations and exchange information about how you and your friends interact with each other. So reciprocal actions means actions you do to each other, like hug each other, kiss each other, greet each other. All right? So you already know that, so pause, write this entire thing down. This is the only notes that you have on this. So you already know that nos vemos means we'll see each other later. The nos meaning each other. Sometimes the reflexive pronouns se and nos are used to express the idea to each other. These are called reciprocal actions. Los novios se abrazaban y se besaban, right? The bride and groom, or it could be the boyfriend and girlfriend, were hugging each other and kissing each other, right? Se abrazaban to each other y besaban each other. Por lo general, nos saludábamos con un abrazo. También nos dábamos la mano. So, in general, we would usually greet each other with a hug. We would also shake hands. Again, whose hands? Each other's hands. And we would greet who? Each other. All right? They would greet each other. They would hug each other. All right, so practice. You're going to take these reciprocal reflexive verbs and you're going to conjugate them. So how do you do that? You chop off the se in the back and you put it in the front, it either becomes se or nos, depending if it says nosotros or if it's the ellos form, they. Then you're left with reunir. You conjugate reunir to either the completed past, if it's complete, or the incomplete past, the imperfect, if it's saying something used to happen all the time. So let's do them together. Please try them on your own. Cada Navidad, every Christmas, so now we're talking about the incomplete past, used to all the time. Nosotros siempre, we would always, nos reuníamos. We would always get together, right? The íamos in the imperfect of I or I are verbs. En la casa para celebrar todos juntos. In the house to celebrate all together. So hace 50 años que, it's been 50 years since my grandparents got married in an old church. Que mis abuelos se casaron en la antigua iglesia. How do we get se casaron? We chopped off the se, we put it in front because it's mis abuelos, they, se. We're left with casar, drop the AR, and it's aron, right? Se o amos aron. Cuando eran niños, when they were kids, so now we're talking about what they used to do all the time. Los estudiantes blank todos los días. The kids would greet each other every day. The students, remember, chop off the se, put it in front. You're left with saludar. It's an AR verb. We change it to the abas, right? Se saludaban. They would greet each other every day. Cuando mis parientes nos visitaban, when my parents would visit us, okay, now we know it's the imperfect, the incomplete past. When my parents used to visit us, nosotros, we would hug each other and we would kiss each other. Nosotros, change the se to nos and put it in the front. You're left with AR, conjugate it. Nosotros nos abrazábamos. We would hug each other. Y nos besábamos, and we would kiss each other. How did you do? All right, so now that you know how reflexive goes, see if you can translate these.
¿Ustedes se ven frecuentemente?
Sí, nos vemos todos los días.
So, do you all see each other frequently? Yes, we see each other every day. So remember, the se and nos being each other. ¿Qué hacían Patty y Juanito? Oh, let me play it.
¿Qué hacían Pati y Juanito mientras Carmen y Alfonso se casaban?
Patty y Juanito se peleaban.
So what would Patty and Juanito do while Carmen and Alfonso were getting married? So what were they doing? Patty y Juanito se peleaban. Patty and Juanito were fighting who? Each other. All right, and review for the test. Let's see if you can understand and listen and understand as people talk about their childhood memories of family celebrations. So the reason for their gathering, who was there, and what the people used to do at the celebration.
Buenos días. Me encanta hablar con los jóvenes. Recuerdo bien los domingos con mi familia. Cada domingo nos reuníamos en la casa de nuestra abuela para comer. Cuando los mayores hablaban, los niños jugaban con el perro y el gato.
So every Sunday they would get together at Grandma's house to eat, and while the grown-ups were talking, the kids were playing with the cat and the dog. All right, to describe a holiday such as Las Fallas or Carnaval, all those holidays we went through in the beginning, you're expected to know. And then see if you can read and understand a description of activities at a special event. For a wedding reception video he just finished filming for his friend, determine who was having a good time and who was not without seeing the video. Cuando Mauricio besó a Luisa, when Mauricio kissed Luisa, la madre de Luisa lloraba y el padre de ella sonreía. The mom of Luisa cried, and the dad and her dad smiled. Los sobrinos pequeños se reían y jugaban con los juguetes. The nieces and the little nieces and nephews, they laughed and played with their toys. All right, you have activity 10, which we did together, core activity, family meeting. You have the preterite, the quiz. You have to know both the completed past and the incomplete past to describe a situation, and the instant check of the chapter. Remember, use your trigger words. Then you have the test and your mi celebración favorita paragraph, my favorite celebration. You have to describe your favorite holiday or celebration as a child. Use only your notes in the model provided or it will be a 0. This is worth a test grade. Be sure to include the following: what the celebration was, who did you celebrate with, where you would go, what you would do, what gifts you would get or receive, and what you would like and why you would like it as a child. So the entire thing is in the incomplete past, the imperfect, saying what was your favorite holiday and why it was your favorite holiday. So mi celebración favorita era, celebrábamos con, primero íbamos, nosotros, what would you do? You take a holiday activity and conjugate it to the imperfect nosotros form. Siempre nos regalaban, era blank, me gustaba porque, reason for liking it, and this is the translation at the bottom. All right, gracias.